Kung Fu and Coffee.
Hello, welcome back to Kung Fu and Coffee. My name is, as always, D. Lance Burton. The D is for delightful. Today's movie is called Seven Lucky Ninja Kids. It's a pretty interesting movie, and I think you'll enjoy seeing the highlights. More interesting than the movie is the story of how I first discovered this movie. And what happened is that, actually, come to think of it now that I think of it, I don't want to talk about it. So let's not talk about my story. Let's go ahead and just take a look at the bits, shall we? Okay, the story of this movie isn't very complicated. This kid named Rambo comes back to the United States, and he says that his name has to be Rocky. Why does he have to be named Rocky? I don't know. Why couldn't he be named Gabe Walker? Anyway, so he's kind of the leader of this group of rugrats, and they all go to a swank dinner, and somehow the little girl picks up the diamond. And the rest of the film is just the bad guys trying to get the diamond back. And of course the bad guys are just the dumbest people since that caveman who somehow joined Mensa. Remember that? There's a fight in the mall, there's a chase on bikes. At one point one of the kids gets kidnapped. And at the end, they all fight in a warehouse. I think the 1980s was a particularly good time for kid empowerment messages in the media. You know, where kids are smarter than the adults, but the kids are still kids. Okay, so I was trying to think, in terms of kids movies, what would be the equivalent, American movies similar to this one? And I guess you have Three Ninjas, right? Which somehow spawned 3 sequels. But there was also Surf Ninjas, which I do remember watching that one. It was really lame, when I was a kid. But the closer one, I think, is Home Alone, where you have the absolutely brain-dead adults and children just destroying them. So the waiter says, "How do you want your steak?" And the kid says, "Medium." And all the other kids say, "What? You don't want a large?" You kind of get the idea of the humor here. Whoa, great leap. Okay, now, this looks like a fun fight scene, but the thing that ruins it is that they play the music from Halloween over it. It doesn't work. I keep imagining Michael Myers in Hong Kong. I'll wait for Mustafa Akkad to call me. I'm still awaiting the definitive book on the history of the eye patch in cinema to be written in 10 volumes with a foreword by Sergei Eisenstein. You may not know this, but Eisenstein was an eye patch man. Okay, so this is an example of a kids movie where the adult is the comic relief. So you have a bodyguard chauffeur who's shadowing the kids, but women are always getting the idea that he's copying a feel. So then he looks at the camera and says something like, "Oh, I can't get a break." This movie was crying out for a training montage. Jeez, headshot in a kids movie. That ain't strawberry jam. Oh, right in the business. Okay, the little girl is named Judy, and she's probably the most athletic of the kids and gets the most screen time. Judy is a punk rocker. Go to town. I like movies which function as narrative vectors and don't concern themselves with giving characters names. What's his name? How about him? Do you care? Me neither. Now look at this. Physics? Humbug to your physics and a pox on your reality. This is crazy. And the movie is pretty slow until this point, but you have to stick around to see the entire warehouse fight. I mean, some of these kids should have gone on to stunt work. The punchline in this scene is hilarious, at least in the dubbing, so I wouldn't dare ruin it for you. If I was going to do a predictable, old-fashioned gag, I'd probably pick one that didn't involve getting glass shards embedded in my flesh. What, did Mr. Mike write this movie? Now, it was many years too late by this point, but this guy actually makes a reference to the Falkland Islands conflict, which is totally random. So that's why, you know, Valerie and I, we're having a fight that day, right? And, you know, because we have a lot of fights, or we did when we were together. You know, we don't fight anymore. And, you know, sometimes I miss our fights together. Isn't that funny that you could be nostalgic for something like that? Anyway, so that's why, for that reason, that I went into the Video Village that day for the first time. And, you know, I didn't know Myron Crabwitz. I'd never seen him, you know, I don't think I ever saw him at the Rainbow Cafe, or, you know, he never worked at the paint factory, you know, which is most of my life. So I'm seeing him for the first time, you know, and I don't know about you, but I'd like to assume that people are good-natured, you know. You like to assume the best of people and think, you know, oh, this guy's going to be friendly, so I'll be friendly to him, you know. But what I meant immediately was negativity. A huge flood of negative feelings. And I got to tell you, if there's one thing I hate, it's negativity. And, you know, I noticed in the store, you know, after I couldn't talk to Myron at all, and I noticed there are lots of reggae musicians, right? Because Circle County has the state's largest population of reggae musicians. I don't know how it happened, don't ask me, it's a bit of a mystery. And, but I like reggae music. But anyway, so you see a lot of these guys around, and in this case you can imagine, you know, they're asking Myron, because, well, they don't talk like we do, which is probably a good thing, because, you know, our English here in Circle County it's ranked pretty low nationally, I think, you know, grammatically speaking. So they're asking him, you know, for any videos of interest to Rastafaris, you know. But you have to understand that Myron is, you know, he's very, well, tolerant is not the word I would use to describe Myron Crabwitz. And, you know, so they get sent out, right? They're out of the store, you know, they're gone. And, you know, you got to be pretty mean to upset a Rastafari, you know what I mean? Because they're pretty relaxed, you know what I mean? So, you know, I try again, you know. I've seen this, and now I'm terrified. I was scared, and now I'm, you know, just shaking. And I says to him, you know, what do you got? What kind of videos could you rent me? Could you rent me something that I like? And I proceed to start telling Myron about the sort of movies that I like. Because, you know, most of us, if we go into a store, we assume that we're the customer, and the guy at the store wants to make money. And that would be true of most people. The thing about Myron is that he doesn't own the Video Village. So that relieves him of the responsibility of making money, and that's a good thing because he doesn't care. Now, Myron Crabwitz is not your friend. He's not my friend. And he's not the world's friend, you know. He lives in opposition to whatever you got. Any of your systems, any of your civilization, any of your socializations, you know, your institutions, your benefits of the communal living, you know, any of that stuff, you know, he hates any of that. He despises it, you know. And I don't know why. I mean, but I think, you know, I hate to go back again to the skin condition, because I know he's a real person, right? He's not just a skin condition, and it'd be a mistake to assume that anybody could be defined by that. I mean, he's a three-dimensional person. I mean, he's real as you or I, you know. So, you know, he's just like, yeah, he's just like anybody. So, but I think, you know, the skin condition, it's sort of changed him, right? Well, growing up like that, he didn't get along with people in the same way, and well, you know, that happens to some people. You know, they like lepers. Remember the lepers? Remember that movie with Steve McQueen, where he goes to the island and there's lepers. Well, he escapes from the other island, and then he goes to the leper island, and then he goes to the other island, and then finally well, I don't know what happens. You know, that's a movie that they don't have that. Myron doesn't carry that movie. Anyway, you know, I say to Myron, what can you give me? What can you show me? And I tell him a little bit about what I like, you know. And I tell him that I heard about the Shaw Brothers, right? And have you got any Shaw Brothers? And he produces a copy of 36 Chambers of Shaolin, also called Master Killer, and the box says Master Killer. Beautiful old box, you know. And I'm excited because I've heard of this movie. It's really famous. Shaw Brothers classic, 36 Chambers of Shaolin. I want to rent this. Well, it's not that easy, right? Myron charges me $3 extra, you know, for the privilege of renting this classic. You know, there's a surcharge on anything above garbage. But I rent it, you know, I pay it, and I take it home, and it's a disappointment, right? Because Myron, he never stops with the disappointment and the bad vibes, right? You don't escape him when you leave his presence, you know. So that it turns out it's not Master Killer, it's not 36 Chamber, it's 7 Lucky Ninja Kids, right? Today's movie. And you know, that's well, that's my tale of travail and tape roll. But as disappointing as it was, it's not a terrible movie. I like it better than anything John Hughes did. Rest in peace. And you know, for that reason, I'm going to give it 2.5 beans out of 4 beans. And if you think that's generous, keep in mind that I don't give half beans, so it's kind of rounded up. Anyway, you know, thanks for listening to my tale today, and you know, as you go through life, don't let the Myron Crabwitzes of the world get you down. You know, whoever they may be in your own life. Cheers, guys. Today's show is brought to you by Magic Sword Coffee. Magic Sword Coffee banishes the goblins of thirst.
Og styrke så helt der med himlen spillende vær. Når jeg sikkert blir med. Og I strassen nå. Jeg er om bare remark. Og fær fys nå. Fær i marken i høyde. Sen jeg snart så er det en sparfe. Når jeg for den sparfe du ikke helt skjemme.